If I could get your attention, we're going to try to get started with the Small Business and Development Committee. My name is Chairman Chad Nimmer, House Representative for District 178 down in southeast corner of the state. It encompasses Pierce, Brantley, Wayne, and Appling counties. So that gets my introduction out of the way, and I look forward to getting to know each one of you a little better as we go through this year and have meetings in here taking up items and agendas that are important to our business climate and community here in the state of Georgia. Before we go through further introduction, I'm going to ask Representative Cantrell, if you will, lead us in prayer.
Let's pray together. Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to be together this afternoon. We ask you to guide our time, give us wisdom, help us to think about things with the proper perspective and to do the right things for the citizens of our great state. So we lean on you today, asking you for your wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative. All right. Well, I want to kind of get us started today. This is our first meeting of the year. We're about a week off pace trying to get just our formality meeting out of the way. And we've got a few presenters today to kind of bring in and explain to us what they do and kind of help get our minds wrapped around the climate of the business community in Georgia. But I do want you to kind of know who's sitting in front of you. And we have a slim crowd today. There's multiple committees meeting on the Hill today. A lot of committees that are taking up bills. So many members came up and asked, and I told them they needed to be where they were voting, and we'd get through that, the rules adoptions and some presentations today. But I want to introduce to you Blake to my left, to your right. He is our policy analyst for this committee, and so he'll be assisting us throughout the year. And after that, I want to start right here, Representative, if you will, and we'll go down and introduce yourself and tell us where you represent.
I'm David Clark, and I represent District 98, which is Beaufort, Sugar Hill, Suwanee.
Amy Carter, South Georgia, District 175, which is Lowndes, Valdosta, Brooks County, which is Quitman, Georgia, primarily, and Thomas County, which is Thomasville, Boston, and others.
Hello, Sam Park of House District 101 covers the county seat of Gwinnett, the city of Lawrenceville, and a little bit of Suwanee.
Hi, I'm Representative Renita Shannon, District 84, and I cover it's primarily DeKalb County, city of Decatur, all the way down to Ellenwood and Lithonia.
Hi, I'm Wes Cantrell, House District 22, which is East Cherokee County, South Forsyth, and just a sliver of North Fulton.
Hey, Gertler. I'm in Tiger, the 8th District, is Raven Towns, Union, and parts of White County.
Hi, I'm Paulette Rakestraw. I represent District 19 in Paulding County and the city of Hiram.
Hey, good afternoon. Mark Newton from District 123, Augusta and Columbia County.
Doreen Carter, I have House District 92. It covers parts of DeKalb and Rockdale. And I have the City of Conyers, City of Lithonia, and the new City of Stonecrest.
All right, well, thank you each one, and thank you for being here. We're going to try to get through this meeting in a timely manner for efficiencies for everybody to get to the other meetings that are overlapping at this time. Members, if you will, and those in attendance, if y'all indulge us just a few moments, I want you to look in your papers in front of you and pull out the Small Business Development Job Creation Rule Sheet. You should see that in your handout. I want you to take just a minute and review those rules and see if you have any questions or concerns about that. These will be the rules for our committee for the year. If you have any questions or any comments, please let me know at this time. And if there are no questions about the rules for this committee, I would entertain a motion to accept. So moved. Recognized?
So moved to accept the rules as written.
Need a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? That's a great way to start the year off with a committee, isn't it? Well, good. Now that we have that out of the way, I want to welcome each of you here. Just from the chairman's perspective, I want to tell you I'm excited about being in this role and in this committee. This committee's still young in its in its form. It's been around for about 6 or 7 years, and the climate of small business in Georgia is growing. Around 97% of our jobs are created by small businesses in the state, and somewhere around 77 to 78% are businesses with less than 10 employees. And in my district that covers Pierce, Brantley, Wayne, and Appleton, when I go and talk to my business owners over the time that I've been a representative, I find that it's hard for us to really pinpoint what regulatory issues they have. They know they have problems. They're so burdened down with running their business that it's hard for us to really get in there and find the mechanics of what's going on. So we're hoping to hear from you today, and we're hoping that this committee can go back and work with their business communities back in their districts and come up with some good ideas to kind of remove some regulatory burdens and hurdles out of the way of the business community so they can continue to grow. Georgia's done an outstanding job, in my opinion, for creating a climate to recruit industry. But sustainability is very important and very vital to our economy and the health of our state. So with no further ado, I want to ask our first presenter to come up this morning, or this afternoon rather, excuse me. It's Director Nathan Humphreys with the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Mr. Humphrey, you will come up and keep your remarks to about 35 seconds. And we have a couple of folks that want to cross-examine you, I'm told. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. Just to start off with, just to tell you a little bit about NFIB. We represent small businesses across the country. Here in Georgia, we have about 7,500 here in Georgia who are members. Of course, we have a lot more small businesses in the state. I put together a packet for you, which you have. This sheet here on the front side has some numbers specific to Georgia, and on the back side has numbers specific to the national numbers. And I did not know who else was speaking after me here at this hearing today, which I'm very glad to hear about, because the university system of Georgia does some great work and provides some great resources for small businesses, and it's kind of an unknown resource, and I'm always bragging about it because they do such a great job. But in my packet, I included an economic forecast and impact of small businesses in Georgia from 2015, and I think you're going to get some updated stuff since then, so you can kind of compare how it's changed. But some great stuff. Dr. Humphreys at UGA has done some great work. No relation to me, but I'll still claim him. He's got a great last name. And then also in the packet, it'll have a card with just some of the issues and priorities that we have for small businesses. So we ballot all of our members on issues. So when we engage on issues, we have a good representation of what is important to our members. We try and stay out of industry-specific stuff and focus on things that impact small businesses in a broad spectrum. Most members would say, if you ask them what regulatory issues they have that you asked about, Mr. Chairman, most of them would probably reference stuff from the federal level. You're right. At the state level, we've blessed with a good state government as far as the bureaucracy goes. We don't get a whole lot of complaints on regulatory issues at the state level. We do have them specific to industry from time to time, but overall, I think we're doing a pretty good job here in Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Nathan. I appreciate you taking time to come and introduce yourself and NFIB to the members of the committee, and appreciate you putting this folder together. Members, if y'all will, hang on to this, put it in your office, and learn about it, learn what resources are there, and share it with the people in your district. Do we have any questions for Mr. Nathan from any of the committee members? Nobody is going to ask him a question. Wow. All right, you're getting all good right here, brother.
Well, if I can ever be of help, if I can ever be help to you, please.
No, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Number 25. Who's that down there? Paulette.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay. I just wondered, what criteria do you use to classify a small business as a small versus medium and large size business?
We don't really have criteria to classify. Most, I would say, have about, on average, 10 employees is probably on the average. But we have, as far as members of NFIB, we have folks with over 100 employees, and then we've got barbershops and dry cleaners with, 1 or 2. And we have self-proprietors. So it's across the board.
But is there like a revenue cutoff, or you, like 1 to 5 million is considered small business, or 1 to 10 in terms of revenue?
No, ma'am. We don't really put any category on that as far as being a member of NFIB. Just they're independently owned and operated, and like I said, most of them are pretty small, like around 10 employees.
Okay, thank you.
Following up with her question, if we don't know the criteria for small business, then how do you measure the impact of small businesses if there's not a criteria for how you qualify?
Well, sorry. So just to clarify, as far as
That was
the question
membership versus
right. That
Okay.
that would be different, correct? And in Dr. Humphrey's economic study, I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'm sure they will be able to tell you
Okay.
more specific. But yeah, it's not a direct. I mean, a lot of the studies that you'll see on small business will vary as far as how they define a small business.
Okay, fair enough. All
So.
right.
I think, Mr. Humphrey, you were referencing more about your membership and what it is. I think to maybe go back to your questions, we've tried to look in and find some consistent answer, and there is none. It's anywhere from 150 to 500 employees, could be 5 million to 30 million in revenue. Wide range, wide gaps there, which creates more of a problem finding consistency in how do we tackle some of the mechanical problems running these businesses. So I think for your membership, we understand where you're from and how you're coming up with your stats, if you will. But for this committee, that's something that I hope that next week we're going to jump into and try to get a group to break out and really figure out how to identify what Georgia classes as a small business. So, good questions. Anyone else? Well, thank you, Mr. Humphrey. We appreciate you and NFIB and what y'all do, and thank you for your involvement in this committee meeting today.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next up, we have a representative from the Department of Community Affairs. How are you today? If you will, introduce yourself to the committee, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Camila Knowles. I'm the commissioner at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. We are a state agency of about 425 employees, and we operate 65 programs across a spectrum of services, but each of those programs fall into one of 3 main buckets. The first is community and economic development. We work a lot with our friends at the Department of Economic Development to process the incentives that the state gives for economic development prospects. We also work a lot with local communities to help them prepare for economic development opportunities. The second main bucket is affordable housing. We are the state's housing agency, there to ensure that all Georgians have access to safe, decent, and affordable housing. And our housing programs run the spectrum from homelessness assistance, rental assistance, first-time homebuyer assistance, to helping folks who are at risk of foreclosure stay in their homes. And our third bucket is local government assistance. We are working with a lot of regional commissions and local governments on coordinated planning efforts. We also administer 13 surveys and reports that local governments utilize in terms of some of their operations. But I'm here before you today, I believe, to talk about HB 73, which we've been working with Representative Houston and some others on, and I believe you may have a copy of that legislation. And in my role as Commissioner of DCA, I have the opportunity to travel around the state to a number of communities, and have noticed that some of our smaller communities having a harder time with economic development momentum than others. While the state as a whole is doing very well, and in fact, as you all know, was named the best state in the country in which to do business for the 4th year in a row, which is great, it seems that that success is a little bit uneven. And so we started thinking about ways that we might be able to provide the right incentives for smaller communities to have folks who already live in those areas open a small business where they work. And that's really the genesis of this bill. If anybody on the committee is familiar with the state's Opportunity Zone program, it's modeled a little bit after that, in that our rural communities would be allowed to apply to be designated as a rural revitalization zone. If that designation was given, then any business that locates or expands in that revitalization zone, which we would envision being in a historic downtown area, would be eligible for up to 3 tax credits, an investment credit for the purchase of a building in the downtown area, a job tax credit for every 2 full-time equivalent jobs created, and a rehabilitation credit for rehabbing the building. None of the credits would be allowed unless those 2 full-time equivalent jobs were created. So really this is aimed at getting some commercial activity going in some of these communities where there just isn't a lot happening. It would most likely be retail. The professional services would also be allowed. So we're envisioning allowing part-time jobs and things of that nature. Happy to answer any questions about that or anything else DCA does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. I want to take a minute and tell you how appreciative I am for the work that y'all do and your leadership over there. Without a healthy community, it's hard to have a healthy business climate. So, and thank you for your work on HB 73.
Thank you.
We do have a question down here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have like a report or some data that you're collecting on the opportunity zones and like how many people are qualifying and taking advantage of it and what type of job growth it's yielded since that program's been in place?
So we do have, we can get you information on the number of opportunity zones that have been designated, and then we have reports filed to us annually on the activity that's taking place in those opportunity zones in terms of businesses locating there. I'm not sure if we get down to the level of number of jobs created at each of those businesses, but we do have reports for the opportunity zones.
Okay.
Glad to get you that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Number 13.
Yes. How long, on average, does it take for approval of the opportunity zones or any of those, even with like a development authority or anything that you all are attached to approve?
So typically, an opportunity zone approval, once the application is in, it has to be signed off on by myself and the Commissioner of Economic Development. And usually there'll be some follow-up questions on the staff level. The time varies, but maybe 3 months. It's not unduly long, I don't believe.
I just for the work that you all are doing. I know I call on you all a lot whenever I'm doing something in my community, especially dealing with housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Stovall. That was a good question. Number 29. Over to my right.
You. Representative Carter, I have DeKalb and Rockdale. My question, in defining the areas that will qualify for the revitalization zone, and you all are looking for rural opportunities, what definition of rural or for the revitalization zone what area will be identified to qualify?
So we're looking at communities of 15,000 or fewer.
County, city?
Either.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming, Commissioner. Just a question more about the department and the appropriations. It seems as though over the past 3 cycles, the amount that the state has allocated has been lessened, and the actual allocations seem to be coming more from the federal agencies. So can you just speak a little bit to what that looks like? And it seems as though, you know, even for the affordable housing piece, the state is contributing 2% of your budget, whereas possibly before it was more. So what does that seem like?
So I think historically we've been mostly federally funded, and that stays true today. Our annual budget is about $260 million, and about 70% of that is federal dollars. But most of it comes from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and most of it is used in the affordable housing space. I think when the state had the economic downturn like the rest of the country, I think state funds were trimmed at DCA like everywhere else, but I'm not sure that it's drastically different now in terms of ratios than what it was before that either. We've historically been heavily federally funded. Most of our dollars are passed through to local communities, development authorities, and things like that.
Number 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what is the difference between the opportunity zone and the revitalization zone? Is this more for building out community structures in tandem with job creation versus an opportunity zone? Can you tell me
Sure,
what the
that's
differences
a great question. So opportunity zones have certain requirements on them. For instance, there's a minimum wage requirement for the jobs that are created there that are higher than minimum wage. All the jobs must be full-time jobs. You're not allowed to have part-time jobs that count for a job tax credit in opportunity zones, and all the jobs must be provided with full benefits. And so this really envisions allowing retail, restaurants, dress shops, shoe stores, coffee shops, things of that nature that get people coming to a downtown area again, more of a retail commercial activity rather than, you know, a manufacturing facility or something of that nature, which is typically the types of businesses we see take advantage of those opportunity zones because they can meet those requirements.
And is there a threshold of population for the opportunity zone like there is for the revitalization?
There's not.
Thank you.
They're all great questions, and I appreciate the committee's involvement and engaging with the dialogue. And thank you for your presence and attendance here today, and again your leadership. And I'll take a point of privilege again and say, without a healthy community, you don't have a healthy business environment. So we thank you for all aspects that y'all do over at the department.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, if you will come up. We have Mr. Alan Adams here with the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center, and you will.
I'm with the SBDC program at the university, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. The SBDC program was created to provide, as it says here, provide training and assistance to small business owners and prospective entrepreneurs. The idea behind the program was businesses in their early stages fail at a very high rate because oftentimes the business owner knows their product or service well, but they may not necessarily have all the business management skills they need to get their enterprise to a more self-sustaining state. The idea was take university resources, get them out in the state close to where business owners lived and worked, and provide an educational resource for them. It's modeled straight after the Cooperative Extension Service. And the idea behind that program was to get assistance to small farmers so they could help their farm or business be more economically successful. We provide training programs, one-on-one assistance, which is where we spend most of our time, working individually with business owners, helping them understand business concepts and practices as it applies to their unique circumstances. We have 17 locations in the state. Several of those locations are actually on campus with other university system schools, and you can see those schools here. But we're from Rome to Valdosta to Brunswick, Augusta, Macon, several in Metro Atlanta, Gainesville, Rome. The idea is to be accessible. It is an extension model. You can see here the number of clients we see per year and the kinds of assistance we provide. Really anything a business owner, as they're struggling to grow their enterprise, might need help with. Understanding sources of capital, cash flow management, a critical issue for most businesses. Marketing, who are my customers? How do I find new? As they begin to get more and more employees, they may need personnel systems, accounting systems. All of our people are hired from the private sector. They come in with specialized skill sets. They may have been former bankers, CPAs, marketing managers, that kind of thing. We try to turn them into educators, not to do things for business owners, but help them understand how they can learn to do it and apply it themselves. We offer a variety of training programs around the state. Some of these are as basic as, do you really want to start a business? A lot of people think that's a great idea, and then they start finding out what's involved, and they think, well, maybe not right now. But just all the fundamental issues you're going to need to deal with: licensing, registrations, money, payroll, just sort of an overview. Then programs dealing specially, QuickBooks accounting, insurance. Some of the things we do are targeted at businesses that are fairly well established and have they've sort of mastered the basics, and they're in a position to really grow. And what do I need to do as an owner to change my thinking, my mindset, so this business can take off in a bigger way? We have a number of specialty programs we work with. One, we have an agribusiness program, and we do collaborate with the Extension Service at University. Farmers who maybe they're getting help, or they understand the crop side, marketing of their business, but the basic financial management of an agribusiness. Farms and non-farm businesses. We have an international trade group. They strictly work with companies that are new to export. They've got a product, they're established domestically, they think they have the ability to project themselves overseas, or they're selling through a third party, or they know their product's overseas, they don't know how it's getting there, but they'd like to capture control of that business. For people looking at exporting, it's going to affect your business. You may have packaging changes, you may have all kinds of logistics and shipping issues. Payment terms and time lags can really affect the business cash flow. You need to understand that before you go down that path. We have a number of programs: minority business development, targeting Latinos, African American owned businesses. A lot of that falls in the area of firms that want to sell to state and local government, federal agencies, or more importantly to bigger prime type contractors, larger companies. And then we have a medical practice management program. We operate in conjunction with the College of Veterinary Medicine and the College of Pharmacy at UGA. It's working with students who are getting close to graduation, who may want to go out and buy an independent pharmacy, may want to go out, buy, or start their own veterinary practice. As the students describe it, they learn all the science and medicine in school, but they need to know how to make it economically viable. Economic impact of the firms we work with, that data is there in front of you. We do a study every year. We're part of a national study. There are SBDCs in every state in the country. But looking at how do firms we work with fare compared to the average Georgia business. And thankfully they fare much better, or there's not much point in us being here. As you can see here, the typical employment and sales gains of firms who work with us. And I will say this: I think the people who come to us are people who've got hustle, scratch, whatever you want to call it. They're looking to take advantage of every resource to give them a competitive advantage. You know, nobody can make a bad business idea good. Nobody can make a bad business person a good business person. But I think for people who want to learn, that want to apply the information we can help them with, it helps improve their chances for success. Nobody can eliminate risk of the market. You can do everything right, and circumstances just don't go your way. But I think our program's been here for 40 years now, and every year we do these kinds of studies, and the data's fairly similar. A number of companies and large corporations in Georgia have increasingly gotten interested in what we do, helping fund our activities to drive down the cost for small firms. They're interested in seeing their customers, their clients, their potential customers, their potential vendors do better, be healthier. And so increasingly they're referring people to us for the kind of help they think those firms need to improve their operations. And then we have a couple of testimonials from business owners who've worked with us. I've provided for y'all to get later a copy of Georgia Trend magazine. They do a small business insert every year, and much of that insert is filled with business owners, their own stories about what they did, how they overcame their hurdles to grow their business, and how the SBDC was able to help them. I mentioned cost a moment ago. I will say we are formed under a federal statute. This program is a federal state funding partnership. U.S. Small Business Administration is the federal funding partner. University of Georgia is the state partner. There is no direct charge for people to come to us for this one-on-one assistance. The federal statute doesn't allow that, and that works really great for us because you can imagine the headache of trying to collect fees or run collections on a bunch of small business owners. It would be a PR disaster for the University of Georgia and an administrative nightmare for us. We do charge for attendance at the training programs we offer, but it's intended to not be burdensome on the owner because most small business owners have a very cash-tight mentality. And if I can answer any questions, that's us in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I appreciate your presentation. You do have a couple of questions popped up here. Number 25.
Okay, me again. I just wanted to find out what your criteria is for determining a small business.
Yeah, and there is no universal standard criteria. I will tell you the U.S. Small Business Administration, which is our federal funding partner, their general rule of thumb is 500 employees or less.
Is
now,
a small business.
As a small business. Now, most people who have 300 or 400 employees don't think of them themselves that way. A lot of academic research will sort of draw a line at 100 employees or less. As the chairman said.
What about revenue? Is there a revenue number that they look at?
Again, it can be all over the map. You've got the Securities and Exchange Commission, which would be 100 million up, and you'll see a lot of data is broken out at the 1 to 10 scale, 1 to 20, 1 to 50, and people will group data for business performance in those increments. Statistics show in Georgia, and statistics can be difficult. Nathan referenced the document we put out. There's a 2017 version in your packet, and there's more over here. We've tried to source all the data in here carefully because you'll see a lot of conflicting data, inconsistent, that kind of thing, because there's no one central registry for all small business performance activity or even licensing registration, so it gets complicated.
Well, it's kind of hard to measure without a uniform standard that you can look at across agencies, across governments, and
the reality is, as the chairman said, if you look at SBA would say there's roughly 900,000 small businesses in Georgia. The majority of those, they're talking about one person. You know, somebody's got an LLC and maybe doing something part-time or just a professional service or something. Inconsistent numbers too, between 200 and 250,000 with employees. And for us, that's more of our target is people who have employees and are looking to grow a business off an employment base. So it is frustrating when you're looking at data. But as I said, a lot of academic research will draw the line at 100 employees roughly. And at that level, you're probably inside, 50 million in revenue or something like that. But it's not very precise.
Well, it's hard to measure if you can't get consistent criteria and you can't prove what you can't measure. So
yeah, you've kind of got to pick your target and then go from there. And sometimes the data that's available will sort of drive you to, okay, we're going to treat it like this, but yeah, it's frustrating for us too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good question, Representative Rakestraw. And again, that's one of the things that I'm hopeful that this committee can work on and try to work with our partners across the state and look at what other states are doing and how they're measuring and defining. We understand what the federal level's doing, but try to come up with an idea of what we're identifying. Representative Bodie?
Yes, Representative William Bowder, 62, Parks Douglasville in Douglas County in South Fulton. Ms. Adams, thank you for all that you do for the small business owners of the state of Georgia, anyone that's trying to get involved and build a small business. I just have one quick question. I know that the center is based out of Athens, but do you take this on the road for outreach clinics throughout the state of Georgia to try to touch as many people across the state as possible?
Yes, actually, most of our people are not in Athens.
Okay.
There's only a few of us there, and we do have a local office that serves Athens and surrounding counties, but most of our people are in these 17 offices around the state, and that's where we have the state divided up, and each office has responsibility for certain counties and getting out, getting known, chambers, lenders, other people that might refer business owners to us. But it was designed as a very localized delivery system.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Bodie. And thank you, Mr. Allen. I appreciate your time, appreciate you taking some questions and presenting to us today. And I want to take a minute. We've had a lot of members come in since we got the meeting started that didn't get introduced themselves. And I know that the representative, Dr. James Beverly, he always loves to take the microphone and tell people who he is. So I'm going to start down here in the front. And, start with Dr. Beverly. I want to go around the bottom row, if you will, introduce yourself to those in attendance and quite possibly somebody on the committee that you've not had an opportunity to meet yet. Then we'll come back up to the top down here. Come around.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess there's no need to introduce myself, but I'm from Bibb County. I represent Macon, 60,000 people in Macon, Georgia. Thank you all for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Henson. I'm from DeKalb County. I just want to thank you. It's a pleasure being here with you all.
Roger Bruce. I represent Douglas County, Fulton County, and Cobb County, and they all have everything in common.
Stover, I represent Coweta County and Fayette County.
Representative Cannon, District 58, which is Midtown, Downtown, and Southwest Atlanta. Happy to be here. A lot of the small businesses, hopefully, that will be coming to the area around Turner Field are what is really interesting in our district right now.
Representative Dexter Sharper, serves Valdosta. Been a small business owner since 7 years old.
If you will, please mash your button. If you didn't get to introduce yourself earlier, just mash your button when we can see it. Thank you.
Hello, Darshawn Kendrick, State Representative for House District 93, which is East DeKalb and South Gwinnett.
Representative William Bodie, 62, again, Douglas County and South Fulton. And I'm also a small business owner.
I'm Jason Shaw, District 176 down in South Georgia. I also operate a couple of small businesses. Hadn't figured out which one I'm good at yet.
Valencia Stovall, House District 74. The cities of Morrow, Lake City, Forest Park, College Park, and Clayton County, and the small business owners as well. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps us up for the day. I want to again thank the members of the committee for taking time to come, and I know you probably got other places to get to and meetings to catch. And thank each one of you for being in attendance and those who presented. And we'll be taking up bills next week.